What do I want to say in congratulating NCSA for 25 years? Wow. It's amazing the number of things that have happened as we look back at the transformative effects that high-performance computing has had on the University of Illinois, on the state of Illinois, on the United States, and the world. The number of things that have transformed our lives, from the web browser to scientific discoveries to new technologies to partnerships. NCSA has always been on the vanguard of innovation, and I was thrilled to be a part of it for many years. Many things happened about which I'm proud. The PACI partnership, the Partnerships for Advanced Computational Infrastructure, and its instantiation, the Alliance, were in full flight. It was an opportunity to work with the Alliance to build the notion of expeditions to the 21st century, to look at how a new notion of Renaissance teams that combine computational and computer scientists, people interested in expanding the purview of computing, could work together to explore the frontiers of science. I was very proud of the Alliance and the things that we created there. I was equally proud that after over 15 years of activity, we were finally able to design and break ground for what's now an amazing IT quadrangle on the Illinois campus. The NCSA building and the Siebel Center together create an incredible confluence of talent and an opportunity for byplay between computer scientists and computational scientists. It was also a time of transition from symmetric multiprocessors to commodity clusters. Those of you who remember the time when we, by hand, built the first large-scale clusters, things that we now take for granted that are in the mainstream, they were revolutionary at the time. The move to commodity clusters created interesting pressures and the need to expand the footprint where we housed facilities. One of the legacies of NCSA was the building where its computing systems were housed, the Advanced Computation Building. I always felt, every time I stepped into that building, that I was on hallowed, holy ground, because that building had been built to house ILIAC 4. And as we thought about what the expansion of commodity clusters meant, it was necessary to expand that facility. And just as today the Blue Waters Computation Facility houses a new generation of systems, at that time the university stepped up and recognized that a radically new and larger facility would be necessary to house the systems that we built. And so the ACB was expanded. It had amazing technology for cooling, for packaging, for deployment of systems that were early harbingers of the things that we now find common in the things we call cloud data centers. But that technology was an amazing achievement in its own right. Following that, we had the capability with the expansion of ACB to deploy the TeraGrid. And I was proud to say at the time that the TeraGrid was the largest computational infrastructure ever deployed on the planet to support scientific discovery. The partnership across the nation, the deployment of the optical grid, the partnership with our industry partners to build out large-scale storage and computing infrastructure has resonated for the past decade as the baseline that defines computational infrastructure not only in the U.S., but across Europe and across Asia. It was the beginning of a new model of computing, a data-intensive and computing-intensive model of distributed collaboration that we now take for granted. One of the things that I always found most fascinating about NCSA was the power of the vision that Larry Smarr first articulated. It was not the Supercomputing Center at Illinois. It was the National Center for Supercomputing Applications. One aspect of that was critical to NCSA's success and the impact on the U.S. economy was the Private Sector Partners Program, the partnership with major companies across the U.S. to look at how computing technology could enable innovation, discovery, and economic competitiveness. I was very proud during my tenure as NCSA director that we were able to expand the Private Sector Partner Program, create collaborations with new companies, and move beyond simple application of supercomputing technologies to data mining, to exploration in new domains, and a broad array of applications of computing technology to innovation. In that same spirit, one of the other hallmarks of NCSA was pushing the envelope on new technologies. GPUs are the rage in supercomputing today, and yet if you think back to when we launched the Computing on Toys program, that was really an early example of seeing over the horizon and saying, wow, we could do something different. We could take things that people don't think of as computing engines, but that ride commodity economics just as clusters did, and then create a new wave of innovation and discovery. And so the rise of GPUs, I trace back to some of those early experiments at NCSA and computing on toys. The other connection, of course, with GPUs is the rich history of scientific visualization and public outreach that took place. Donna Cox and her team and other collaborators at NCSA really created, in a very real sense, the notion that we take for granted today of scientific visualization. I remember being at the Hayden Planetarium in New York with Donna and her team as those things were deployed for broad public visualization. It was an exciting time to see how computing, public discovery, and outreach and innovation came together. One of the interesting things about technology is that the questions don't change, but the answers always do. NCSA's role was always to live in the future today. The distinguishing characteristic of NCSA in the national landscape was what it was doing today is what the rest of the world would be doing in 5 years. That was what made it an exciting place, that we were living in the future today. And so as I look at what's happened, as we've traced the arc of technology change, the things that NCSA is building today with the Blue Water system, the world's fastest computer system, and the transformative effects that that will have on science, the new facilities, the commitment to national partnership, the incredible commitment that the state of Illinois and the University of Illinois have made to NCSA, the future has never been brighter. NCSA will always be in the vanguard of computing technology. I don't know what that will be in 25 years, but I know people will look back and say two things. Wow, we couldn't have imagined that, but the folks at NCSA and the University of Illinois certainly did, and they made it possible.